So, clear agendas. Matching, we have to convert employment exchanges to career centers. We have to figure out the Apprenticeship Act because we need to blend classroom learning with online learning, with virtual classrooms, with on-the-job classrooms. We have to relook at our labor laws. We have to figure out entry gate assessments because everybody can be repaired, but what repair they need and how much repair they need decides the fiscal sustainability of separating financing and delivery. Exit gate has to have credible, learning has two values. One is learning value and the other is the signaling value. The signaling value of education or diplomas today are very low. And that is a very important part of the matching puzzle. Mismatch, we have to separate between repair and prepare. I distinguish really by the tenure of how much repair they need. There's a huge information asymmetry around institutions. What are their employment outcomes? What is the dropout ratios? What are the teachers? Just putting that information out there will make a huge difference because today kids are flying blind or their parents are flying blind. Pay for yield. Separate financing from delivery, which has started happening. There are 6 states. The MES program of DGET now reimburses 15 rupees an hour to private training institutes. So you're starting to see some of that happen. It'll increase over time. And use students as financing vehicles rather than the institute. You may call it a scholarship, you may call it a voucher, but some of that has started happening. It doesn't have to replace the existing system, but I think it complements and gives you some data to compare the outcomes in the 2 different situations. We have to create an asset bank, which we've started doing maybe in about 7 states now, where buildings which are unutilized are available for skill development programs under MES and stuff like that. Performance management, the toughest one. This is true for government and not only skill development. You know, if the fear of falling and the hope of rising doesn't exist in most government-run schools, vocational training institutes, and colleges. Punishment and reward system has to be relooked at just as a fundamental basis of teachers. Just 30% of teachers in ITI is not showing up for work. Using technology for scalability, consistency, innovating in financing, whether it's activating the National Skill Development Corporation, redoing the national classification of organizations, ramping up the modular employability scheme because longer programs need to be complemented by shorter modules which can be combined. Current ITI PPP policy needs to be tweaked. The government has released 1,400 crores for the public-private partnership. Only 40 crores has been spent. We can't blame the lack of imagination for it not being spent. There are genuine reasons why ITIs are not able to do that. 17 states now have skill missions. We have to ramp them up. And we have to enforce the operating principles. Last year, we passed a national skill policy. It's a pretty interesting document for them if you have not seen it, which talks about most of the stuff that I've articulated, but it's not being enforced right now because there's an antibiotic reaction from 19 ministries around their kingdoms. But I think if we have passed the policy at some point, we're going to have to start enforcing it. Education, quantity versus quality. Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan has got kids into classrooms. We now have to improve the quality. Learning for earning, there is no contradiction. I can teach somebody how to be a plumber, a mason, a barbender, a customer service person, or a salesperson in 6 months. I can't teach him to be creative, confident, curious, risk-taker, team player. If you believe that what life skill, learning for earning and learning for living, the second bucket is more important than learning for earning. So that's fine with me. We don't have on-ramps and off-ramps into the education system, so you can't really go into the education system, out of the education. The fungibility doesn't exist. English is a vocational skill. It's like Windows. It's an operating system. I speak 5 languages myself, but employment outcomes are 300% higher for people who speak English. That's not my preference. It's just what it is. A migrant from the Northeast, an unintended consequence of the Baptists going to the Northeast is that a migrant from the Northeast gets 8,000 rupees a month with me because they join in front office. A migrant from UP and Bihar joins as a packer and loader and probably gets 4,000. Good, bad, I don't know. It's just what it is. And obviously a regulatory revamp. So I have to close now, but I want to step back and just talk about this change process because I spend 35% of my time on public policy. It is my binding constraint. Every time we go for a strategy offsite and say what stands between us and 1 million employees, and we will get to 1 million employees. We're among the top 5 employers in the country. We'll probably be the largest employer next year. It is public policy. It is the labor laws of this country and the skill development system of the country. And the challenge is that there's no Ministry of Employment. I'm going to skip a lot of the stuff here, but essentially what we're seeing in public policy is a recognition that our 3 system is not delivering what we want to do. How do you get change in a country like India is a profound question. Will it come from inside? Will it come from outside? Will it be radical, incremental? Do you work with the current opening balance or do you create a parallel system? I think it's probably all of the above. I think that it's important to recognize that this change is now the difference between growth and poverty reduction. And I think that we've had the collective therapy session. So education reform is an idea whose time has come. Employment reform is not an idea whose time has come. Employability reform, we're getting there. But from a standalone perspective, if you stand back and look, this is probably the biggest entrepreneurial opportunity on the planet in the next 10, 15 years. There are probably, I don't want to say companies, there are probably 20, 25, $100 million, and I'm saying that not out of my hat, in the human capital system over the next 10, 15 years. So you can take a narrow assessment company, you can take certification, you can take curriculum, you can take teacher training, you can take technology, you can take preschools, you can take schools, you can take higher education. I mean, this is just a buffet. You cannot eat all that you can see. And I think that this is one of those few places where, everybody was wrong about India. When I landed for business school in the US in 1994, there was a front page article on the Wall Street Journal which said that India is more interesting than important. And I hope that journalist is eating the newspaper on which he wrote that, because what's happening in India is not once in a decade or once in a millennium. It's really once in the lifetime of a country. But I don't know how many of you remember Pandit Nehru's speech of Tryst with Destiny. We missed that tryst with destiny. There are 300 million people in India who will never read the newspaper that they deliver. They will never sit in the car that they clean or drive the tractor that they unload or live in the house that they build. And I have a very personal view of that tragedy. I don't talk about it in third persons. I have no interest in leaving people alone and letting grass grow at night and not being interventionist and being more strategic. I have no such hang-ups, because for me, a lack of these kids, for no fault other than the ovarian lottery, are just unable to escape their financial, social, cultural opening balance. And I think that reforms have fixed the sins of commission, some of them. We haven't really fixed the sins of omission, to my mind. And so the way forward is all the ideas are on the table. I gave you a quick run through, but there's 100 megabytes of ideas around what public policy has to do, or the privatization of skill development is happening. Ideas are falling off the table, so there's really no more need for any more ideas. And I think the resource question is overrated, because it's not more cooks in the kitchen anymore. We've got a 31,000 crore allocation in the 11th plan. It's a different recipe. And I think it's also the end of stereotypes. Everybody in the private sector is not a myopic vampire who can't focus beyond their nose, and everybody in the NGOs is not somebody who doesn't want to align the best part of scale and market linkages and employment. So I think that's important. There is a unique entrepreneurial opportunity here. It's a triad. It's an entrepreneurial triad which does not exist in many businesses in India. When I sold my earlier company, me and Ashok, he was my roommate in college, we said we want our next company to be three things. We want it to be profitable, fun, and good for India. I had worked in an oil refinery, and that was good for India, and it was profitable. It wasn't really fun, right? And Ashok had worked for one of the cola franchisees, or one of cola companies, and that was profitable and it was fun. Was it good for India? Not really. You can't say with a straight face. But in TeamLease or in human capital, it's that we've hired somebody every 5 minutes for the last 5 years, night and day, weekends included, profitable, and it's a very fun operation. So it's one of those operations where there's no contradiction between doing well and doing good. And these kids are losing their future. We don't have 15 years to figure this out or 20 years to figure this out. Losing your future is not like losing a few points in the stock market or like losing an election. And we tend to talk about this problem in third person. The government must do this. Yes, the government must allocate more money. The private sector must step up to its responsibility to manufacture its employees. We always talk about third person. I think that it's now an opportunity for which money is available, for which the solutions are known, the jobs are known. It is in the last mile. Now I think the therapy session is done. It has to move into execution. There are a lot of challenges, regulatory cholesterol or arthritis, whatever you want to call it, which impede scaling the skill development, on the speed that we'd like to do it. But I think there's enough space been created now in the last 2 years for all kinds of statistically independent tries, small, big, made to stock, made to order, assessment, counseling, which really can move the needle on this opportunity. I am a big believer in public policy. I spend 30% of my time. But I think now we're reaching the point where the shortage is so large that there may be a non-government solution which is much more scalable, and there is space available for that. Thank you very much.